Revealed, the heartwarming transformation of a lonely billionaire's painful past into amazing, life-altering connections. Jack Monroe sat on the balcony of his expansive mansion, watching the sun set over his small Midwestern town, a sight that should have stirred something within him. Yet he felt nothing, just a hollow echo that matched the vast emptiness of his life. His name was synonymous with wealth, yet here he was, alone, surrounded by the laughter of families enjoying their lives next door. A chill crept up his spine as memories of his neglected childhood flooded his mind. His mother had chosen ambition over him, leaving him to conquer loneliness as a child, building walls that made a fortress of his heart. Across town, the local community center prepared to close its doors. This was no ordinary building, it was a sanctuary for struggling families, a place where hope blossomed amidst despair. Jack had never felt that sense of community, it was as foreign to him as the idea of love. But then, a letter arrived, inviting him to a meeting about the center's future. It tugged at something deep within him, stirring echoes of happiness he had long forsaken. What if he lost the chance to save something he never actually had? With hesitation gnawing at his heart, Jack showed up at the community meeting, pushing open the doors to familiar worn walls. Immediately, the raw emotion of the townspeople hit him like a wave. Their faces were alive with determination, desperation, and hope. He felt an awakening within himself, the values he'd abandoned clawing their way back to the surface: family loyalty, neighborly support, the promise of the American dream. Then, crushingly familiar, he spotted his mother in the crowd. She looked older, a shadow of the woman who'd chosen fame over him. His heart raced as fear and anger intertwined. Their confrontation exploded with buried resentment. Words tumbled out, revealing long-hidden truths about choices that had determined their lives. Just as the argument began to drown him, a local veteran intervened, his weathered face a map of sacrifice. "Life isn't about achievements but connections we make," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos. Jack felt something shift, an epiphany sparking deep inside him, challenging everything he thought about worth. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Willingness crept in as Jack found himself engaged with the community, participating in food drives and lending a hand. Each act of kindness chipped away at his cold exterior, exposing the warmth of connection that had eluded him for so long. He glimpsed joy in their laughter, and for the first time in years, he felt the glimmer of hope. But the journey ahead remained uncertain. Jack stood at a crossroads. Would he choose to build bridges or return to the isolation his wealth provided? Could he finally break free from a past that clung to him like a second skin? The town's future felt fragile, and Jack's heart raced as he faced the question: would he embrace a life filled with connection, or allow the haunting whispers of lost potential to drown him in solitude once more? Jack woke the next morning with the sun streaming through his bedroom window, illuminating the dust particles dancing in the air. As he lay there, he felt a tangible shift in his heart, a rush of warmth he hadn't experienced in years. It was as if the light had seeped into his very soul, urging him to step outside his carefully constructed shell. He could hear the distant laughter of children playing, the faint sound of barbecue sizzling, and it pulled him towards something he was beginning to crave: connection. He'd promised himself to get more involved, to rescue the community center, but he lingered in the doorway of his home, the weight of his past clinging to him like a shadow. Fear still lurked somewhere in the depths of his mind, telling him it would be easier to retreat into his fortress where he was untouchable. But today, that voice was drowned out by the echoes of laughter and life just beyond his gate. With a determined breath, Jack stepped outside. The air was fresh, tinged with the scent of flowers blooming in nearby yards. The world felt alive, buzzing with possibilities. He headed towards the community center, a place that now stirred something deeply buried inside him. Every step felt like a miniature revolution, the kind that could lead to great change. When he arrived, the bustling activity took his breath away. Parents were setting up tables for an upcoming neighborhood cookout, and children dashed about, their giggles ringing out like music. There was Marissa, the community center director, coordinating volunteers with her signature enthusiasm. Jack couldn't help but admire her spirit. It radiated warmth, pulling people in. He approached her, and to his surprise, she didn't flinch upon seeing him. "Jack!" she exclaimed, her eyes lighting up. "You actually came back. We could use your insight with planning for the cookout." He hesitated, an urge to slip back into his old life bubbling to the surface. But those eyes, filled with hope and trust, inspired him to dig deeper within himself. "I'd love to help," he finally said, surprising even himself. As they discussed the logistics, Jack began to feel a weight lift off his shoulders. They explored menus, decorations, and games for the kids. Laughter flowed freely, and as he engaged more, his heart swelled at the idea of being part of something bigger than himself. Hours flew by, and a sense of belonging flushed over him, even amidst wild barbecue's smoke. This newfound community enveloped him like a warm blanket. Every smile offered to him felt like a piece stitched into his heart, and he realized, for the first time, that he was taking off pieces of the armor he had worn for so long. But just as hope surged, Jack noticed familiar faces approaching the town council members, and their expressions weren't cheerful. Their eyes darted nervously, and a knot formed in his stomach. The anxiety in the air was palpable. "Jack, we need to talk," one of them said, pulling him aside. "There are serious budget cuts impending." Jack's heart sank. He had hardly begun to foster these relationships, and now the specter of loss was returning. This was a test, a challenge that could easily trap him in fear again. Just as doubt threatened to creep in, he thought of Marissa's laughter and the joyful kids playing. Would he retreat or fight for what he had begun to cherish? As the weight of responsibility settled on his shoulders, Jack took a deep breath, ready to carve his path forward. And in that moment of uncertainty, he sensed that real transformation was just beginning. Would he have the courage to battle for this community, for these connections, even when the stakes were higher than they'd ever been? The answer hung in the air, and he prepared to face whatever came next. Jack's breath came out in a rush, fogging up the cool air as it absorbed the tension hanging between him and the council members. The words he'd just heard echoed in his mind, mingling with the commotion of laughter and clinking utensils from the cookout preparations behind him. He felt a flutter in his stomach, familiar dread. "Budget cuts?" he repeated, trying to grasp the reality of the situation. "Yes. The town's been struggling. Unfortunately, the community center is at the top of the list for cuts," the council member said, shifting on his feet as if restless to be moving somewhere else. Jack's heartbeat raced. Just as he had found a reason to live beyond his self-imposed isolation, it felt like the ground was being pulled out from beneath him. The joy of the day began to fade, those smiles, that laughter, it could all vanish in an instant. "Can't we find another way?" he asked, desperation creeping into his voice. "This center means everything to these families." The council members exchanged glances, their expressions heavy. "We're trying. The budget is tight, and without funds, we can't keep the doors open," one of them replied, his tone almost apologetic. Jack could only nod, the knot in his stomach tightening. He thought of the faces he had seen in his brief time there, children, playing carefree, Marissa, her spirit not dimmed even with challenges in front of them. The weight of responsibility loomed large, yet deep inside, a flicker of defiance stirred. "Tell me what we can do," he said, voice steadier now. "I don't want to just stand by and watch this community fall apart." Surprise passed across the council members' faces. They hadn't expected this reaction. "Well, if you're willing to rally support and organize some fundraising. Yes." Jack's heart kicked into overdrive. He could feel the energy coursing through his veins. I can do that. I have connections. The realization washed over him. While he had always kept his wealth close, this was a chance to use it for something greater than himself. To heal not just the community center, but himself in the process. Okay, he said, a grin breaking through. Let's get to work. As they began hashing out ideas, Jack felt the spark of determination igniting within him. This was no longer just about saving a building, it was about forging bonds, about standing up for something bigger than him. Can we meet again later this week? One of the council members asked. We'd like to keep you in the loop as we figure this all out. Absolutely. Jack felt a new lightness at the prospect of becoming involved. The possibilities opened up before him like a vast horizon. As the council members left, Jack turned to join Marissa, who had been watching from a distance with an encouraging smile that felt like a warm hug to his heart. Jack. I saw you talking to the council. What happened? She beamed. He took a step closer, buoyed by her light. They're looking at cuts, but I'm stepping in to help raise funds. I want to do this. I want to fight for all of us. Marissa's eyes sparkled with excitement. That's amazing. With your skills and our community's backing, we could really make a difference. He could feel the urge to pull away, to retreat into safety, but the thought of letting her down, of letting the community down, grounded him. This time, he wouldn't back away. Together, they began sketching plans for a fundraiser, their laughter merging with the noise of the gathering crowd. With every idea they shared, Jack felt lighter and more alive. He was getting not just involved but invested. But in the depths of his heart, a fear lingered. What if it wasn't enough? What if he couldn't connect the dots or rally enough support? Just when hope surged, that nagging doubt threatened to overwhelm him. Standing shoulder to shoulder with Marissa, despite all the excitement, he knew he was about to enter the toughest fight of his life. The stakes were high, and he had more to lose than ever before. Would he be strong enough to wield hope against fear? And as the weight of responsibility settled more firmly on his shoulders, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much longer battle. What awaited him next? Success, failure, or something entirely unpredictable was yet to be revealed. Jack woke up early the next day, the sun streaming through his bedroom window. For the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of purpose. As he got out of bed, the memories of yesterday's conversation with the council played over and over in his mind. The community center wasn't just a building, it embodied laughter, support, connection, a lifeline for many. He dressed quickly and decided that today was the day he would begin his mission. His phone buzzed as he poured himself a cup of coffee. It was Marissa, asking if they could meet at the community center to brainstorm fundraising ideas. A smile broke on his face. She was as passionate about this cause as he was, and that energized him even more. In the bright afternoon light, he walked into the community center. The walls, once dull, now felt like they pulsed with potential, decorated with children's artwork. Marissa was already there, deep in thought, sketching out ideas for events on a whiteboard. Hey! You made it, she said, her eyes lighting up as she looked up from her work. What's the plan? He asked, eager to dive in. What if we host a fair? We could have games, food trucks, and a raffle. She suggested. Her excitement was infectious, and Jack found himself nodding along, feeling ideas burst forth. Family game nights, art classes, maybe even a concert. People love music. Jack added, his voice growing with each successive thought. Exactly. Marissa clapped her hands together. We need to gather volunteers to help, too. Once we have a solid plan, we can reach out to businesses for sponsorships. The two of them spent the day drafting proposals, each new idea sending waves of excitement through Jack. But as they planned, a shadow of doubt still hung over him. The fear whispered in the back of his mind, what if it all fell through? What if nobody showed up? "Hey, Jack," Marissa said, breaking his reverie. "You good? You seem lost in thought." I want this to work, you know? I've never done anything like this before." The frankness surprised him. Marissa stepped closer, her warmth was palpable. "You're not alone in this. We'll figure it out together. You're doing something amazing already just by stepping up." Her confident words stirred something deep inside Jack. For too long, he had tucked himself away, fearing vulnerability and connection. But now, in this community with Marissa by his side, he saw a glimmer of hope. As they mapped out the next steps, Jack's phone vibrated again. This time, it was a text from one of his old business contacts. It was a simple message, asking how he was doing. But it sparked an idea. What if he reached out to them for support? "Marissa, I have an idea," he said, excitement bubbling again. "I could leverage my connections for donations and sponsorships." Her eyes sparkled. "That's perfect. If we can get some local businesses on board, it could help cover our expenses and more." Jack felt a rush of adrenaline. This wasn't just a fundraiser anymore, it was becoming a movement, a call to action for the community. With each phone call, each email, the connections came alive, and he could already envision the energy radiating from the fair. As days passed, the plans solidified. Flyers were created, volunteers signed up, and slowly, the community started buzzing with anticipation. Yet, Jack wrestled with the fear that had visited him since this began. What if the turnout was small? What if his old connections didn't come through? What if he failed? One evening, after a long day filled with phone calls, he sat at the edge of his bed, lost in thought. The door creaked open, and Marissa stuck her head in, sensing his unease. "Hey, you okay?" she asked, noticing his distant expression. He sighed, rubbing his temples. "What if this all blows up in my face? What if I can't save the center?" Marissa walked in, sitting beside him. "You've already done so much just by trying. You're not just saving a building, Jack, you're giving people hope. That's what matters." Her words sunk in deeper than the warm comfort of her presence. Maybe it did matter. Maybe all the steps he had taken, all the commitments he'd made, were worth the risk of failure. Jack looked at her, a question forming in his mind. What if I let everyone down? Marissa took a breath, considering his words. But what if you succeed? What if this is the beginning of something incredible? Her optimism sparked a fire in him. It was a risk he was willing to take. The fear was still there, but it didn't have to hold him back. Jack stood up, suddenly resolute. "You're right. It's time to push forward." And as they headed back to the whiteboard, excitement mounting, Jack knew they were on the brink of something bigger than just saving the community center. Would their efforts galvanize the community in ways he never imagined? As he picked up the marker, ready to draw even more ambitious plans, the question loomed, what awaited them when the day of the fundraiser finally arrived? The day of the fundraiser dawned bright and clear, almost as if the universe was lending its support to Jack and Marissa's cause. Jack could hardly believe it was finally here. He bounced out of bed, heart hammering with a mix of excitement and nerves. He dressed quickly, throwing on a shirt that felt a little too tight with the anticipation building inside him. The community center had transformed overnight. Tents were set up in the parking lot, colorful banners fluttered in the breeze, and the sweet aroma of food wafted through the air. Jack's phone buzzed constantly with messages from volunteers and business partners confirming last-minute details. It was surreal. Just a week ago, he had been uncertain, timid even, feeling the weight of the past push against him, dragging him down. But now, he was lighter. He could feel the energy vibrating throughout the center, the kind of positive electricity that comes when people come together for a shared purpose. Marissa was already there, coordinating last-minute changes with vendors. Her hair was pulled back into a messy bun, and she wore a bright yellow t-shirt that made her stand out against the backdrop of the center's brick facade. When she saw him, she beamed. "Jack! Look around. It's coming together. They really showed up, didn't they?" He marveled, taking a moment to soak it in. The sheer number of volunteers and families milling about filled him with pride. As the clock crept towards the start time, the volunteers began to filter in, carrying supplies, setting up booths, and arranging games. Jack's heart swelled each time he spotted familiar faces, the people who usually drifted past him in the grocery store or waved from across the street. Now, everyone was here, engaged and eager to contribute to something bigger than themselves. But with every cheer, every sign of support, Jack's insecurities crept back in. What if nobody came? What if this all fell apart? He pushed those thoughts away, focusing instead on Marissa, who was chatting animatedly with a young couple about game booth logistics. "Jack!" she called out suddenly, pulling him from his thoughts. "Come help me organize the raffle table." He jogged over, feeling the tension slip away as he aligned the baskets. "What do you need me to do?" "Just keep smiling and talk to people. Make connections. You've already reached out to so many. Share that energy." He nodded, feeling the rush of her enthusiasm. It was contagious, fueling his resolve. As the crowd began to gather, families started to pop in, their children bouncing with excitement. Jack felt the atmosphere shift, a warm hum enveloping him like a blanket. He stepped forward, welcoming families as they arrived, asking them about their favorite booths. Then came a moment that would stay forever carved in his memory. A woman approached him, an older lady with silver hair, her eyes glistening. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "This place, it means everything to our families." Tears pricked at the corners of Jack's eyes. He could feel the weight of her gratitude wash over him. This wasn't just about fundraising, it was about community. It was about giving people a space to belong. As more people arrived, the fair picked up momentum. Laughter filled the air while children scampered around, the sounds of music melding with a symphony of joy. Each vendor had a line, and every game was raucous with playful competition. Jack glanced at Marissa, who was busy at the face-painting booth, her smile wide as kids adorned with colorful designs rushed by. But just when he was about to relax, a commotion arose from near the food trucks. A group of teenagers had gathered around, shouting and laughing, but then a loud crash made him spin around. Someone had knocked over a table, spilling drinks everywhere. Fear clawed at his throat, this could spiral out of control. What if this was the moment everything fell apart? He dashed toward the scene, only to come face to face with a boy who looked sheepish, eyes wide with embarrassment. Before he could react, Marissa zoomed in. Beside him, expertly de-escalating the situation. "Hey, no big deal. Accidents happen. Let us all pitch in to clean it up together." Jack stepped back, watching Marissa effortlessly rally the crowd, turning a potential disaster into a moment of unity. He realized then, more than ever, that this was not just about one community center or one fundraiser. It was a turning point, a way to unite a community that had struggled in silence for too long. As the day wore on, Jack's doubts faded. They found their rhythm. They were doing this, all of them together. The success of the day would be measured not just in funds raised, but in connections forged, lives touched, and the hope restored within their community. But amid the laughter and cheer, a familiar anxiety tugged at him. What happened when the excitement faded? What happened once the fair was over? Jack stood at the edge of the crowd, looking out at the sea of smiling faces. What laid ahead? Would they hold this together? Would he be able to maintain this momentum? Before he could delve deeper into his thoughts, Marissa appeared at his side, her face flushed with excitement. "Jack! Come look at this." As they hurried toward the stage, an unexpected feeling washed over him. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't meant to do this alone after all. And with that thought, another wave of hope crashed over him. What surprises awaited them at the culmination of this day? The stage was alive with energy as Jack and Marissa pushed their way through the crowd. It was larger than he had ever imagined. Families sprawled across the grass, children squealing with laughter as they raced about, and the smell of grilled food wafted through the air, making Jack's stomach rumble unexpectedly. "What is it?" he asked, his heart racing again for reasons beyond nerves. Marissa tugged his hand, guiding him to a small platform set up for announcements. As they reached the front, the community center's director stood ready to speak. Her voice boomed through the loudspeaker, rich with pride and purpose. "Thank you all for showing up today." The crowd erupted in applause, a wave of sound reverberating through the warm afternoon. Jack felt his face flush as he stole a glance at Marissa, who was practically glowing under the sun's rays. "Look at them," she whispered into his ear, her excitement palpable. "They're really here for us." Just then, the director announced the first raffle winner. A young girl, perhaps 8 or 9, squealed in delight when her name was called. She darted up to the stage and beamed as she accepted her prize, a huge teddy bear, its fur a deep shade of blue. The applause was thunderous, and Jack's heart skipped at the sight of the girl hugging the bear tightly to her chest, eyes twinkling with joy. "That's what it's all about," Jack murmured, feeling warmth fill his chest. He locked eyes with Marissa, and for a brief moment, it felt as though they were sharing a secret, reveling together in the joy their efforts had created. But that moment was fleeting. The director continued with the announcements, thanking volunteers, sponsors, and everyone involved in making the day happen. Each name prompted more cheers, more laughter. Yet Jack's eyes flickered toward the edges of the crowd, where shadows stretched quietly away from the vibrant energy. He thought he saw a young man lingering, his expression distant and unsure, standing alone even in a sea of togetherness. "Do you see him?" Jack asked Marissa, nodding toward the boy. "Yeah," she replied, her tone shifting slightly, a frown forming on her brow. "Why doesn't he join in? Maybe he's feeling overwhelmed?" "It's so easy to feel left out, even in moments like this," Jack said softly, his fingers drumming against his leg. He couldn't shake the nagging sensation that he needed to do something, reach out in some way. "Let us go talk to him," Marissa said, determination flowing from her voice. "Nobody should feel alone today. Come on." Jack hesitated. What if he made it worse? What if the boy didn't want to interact? But Marissa's enthusiasm lifted his spirit as they approached the boy. "Hey there!" Marissa called out, her voice bright and inviting. "Having fun today?" The boy looked up, surprise flickering in his wide eyes. "It's okay, I guess." Jack stepped closer, matching Marissa's warm smile. "Why don't you join us? There are games, food, and tons of prizes. You might win something amazing. I saw some fantastic toys over there." The boy hesitated again, his gaze shifting toward the laughter of other children, and for a brief moment, Jack saw a glimmer of longing in his expression. It tugged at something deep inside him, a reminder of nights spent feeling as if he were the only one left in the world. But before Jack could say more, the boy muttered a soft, "I don't know." Marissa knelt down until she was face to face with him. "You're not alone, I promise. We're all friends here, just waiting for you to join us. What do you say?" For a tense moment, Jack held his breath, unsure if his heart would break or soar. Would this be a moment of connection, an opportunity for transformation? Finally, the boy nodded, albeit hesitantly. His face still held uncertainty, but perhaps the act of reaching out opened a door. Jack felt a rush of relief, a flicker of hope that expanded deep within him. Suddenly, the director called for everyone's attention again, this time announcing a surprise guest, a local celebrity known for their philanthropic work. The crowd gasped and cheered, excitement rippling through the gathered families. Let us go watch," Marissa said, pulling Jack and their new friend along with her. As they joined the throng heading toward the stage, Jack glanced back one last time at the boy. Something had shifted in him. He had taken that first step. Jack smiled, feeling that maybe this was just the beginning. But as the celebrity took the stage, something in Jack's gut twisted with an unsettling thought of what awaited them all after the day was done. Would the connections made survive beyond this moment of joy? Would they embrace that fragile feeling of community in the days to come? The moment hung in the air like an unspoken promise. Nothing was certain, but as Jack stood among old friends and knew, he couldn't shake the feeling that even though they were in a celebration, the real challenge was just about to begin. And there in that crowd, the stakes felt higher than ever. As the celebrity began to speak, Jack found himself wondering, how far can a community stretch before it snaps? What awaited them once the last banners were packed away? The crowd roared as the celebrity took the stage, the lights flickering on her as she grinned and waved. Jack felt the excitement ripple through the mass of bodies surrounding him, an infectious energy that seemed to erase thoughts of uncertainty. But deep inside, a quiet whisper tugged at him, a fear that the day's joy could still slip away. Marissa, radiating enthusiasm, leaned in closer to Jack, her eyes sparkling as she whispered, "Isn't she incredible? I can't believe we're here. It's everything we dreamed." Jack nodded absently. He found himself scanning the crowd again, searching for the boy they'd just met. He spotted him standing a little ways back, half hidden behind a cluster of adults. A small smile broke across Jack's face. The boy was laughing, his eyes wide as he took in the scene. Maybe every day could be a little brighter for him, just like today. As the celebrity began sharing her own story of unexpected challenges and triumphs, Jack felt the words resonate deep within him. She spoke of resilience, of community coming together, of the power of support. Each moment seemed to reflect Jack's own desires for connection, for a sense of belonging. "I used to feel like I was standing on the outside, looking in," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "But I learned that sometimes, it takes one small act of kindness to start a wave. You never know who might need it the most." Jack's heart quickened. Wasn't that what they were doing today? He turned to Marissa, who sat rapt, hanging on every word. Maybe they could start something big here, not just for an afternoon, but something that would last. His thoughts were interrupted when he caught sight of the boy again. He was no longer standing alone. He had joined a group of kids, hesitantly laughing and playing along. Jack felt a swell of pride and relief wash over him. In a way, they had made a difference. But as the applause echoed like thunder, a ripple of uneasiness crept back in. Jack couldn't shake the feeling that the deeper challenges awaited them. He felt the weight of what he didn't know about the boy, about the community, and even about himself. Would it be enough? "Thanks for nudging him out of his shell," he said to Marissa, a knot in his stomach reminding him that every gesture had its complexities. "I just hope he can keep feeling this way, this connection." Marissa nodded, her expression turning serious. "We'll make sure of it. But it's not just about today. It's about how we keep that going. We can be the spark for something bigger than us." As the star on stage spoke of hope, Jack realized that the battle wouldn't happen in one day. This was just the beginning. They would have to nurture the bonds forged in this moment, carrying momentum into the future. He wondered how their little act of kindness could evolve into something more profound. Just then, the boy, his laughter ringing clear, waved at them, catching Jack's eye. A sense of warmth spread within him again. But along with that warmth came lingering questions. Could his fragile state of connection withstand the realities waiting for them once the sun set on this gathering? The celebrity concluded her speech with a reminder: together, we can make our communities stronger. We just have to keep believing and acting on that belief. As the cheers filled the air once more, Jack looked around. He saw the faces, the smiles, the shared joy. Yet, the undercurrent of doubt still tugged at him. What if tomorrow didn't feel as bright? That thought hung heavy as Marissa squeezed his hand, and they joined the crowd in celebration. Little did they know, a challenge awaited them after the last cheer, a test that would push the limits of their newfound connection. Would they rise to meet it? The question loomed as a new chapter dawned on the horizon. The sky deepened into shades of orange and pink as the event wrapped up, and the crowds began to disperse. Jack felt the joyous energy start to fade, replaced by a quiet urgency that stirred in his gut. Marissa, still buzzing from the energy of the celebrity's speech, bounced on her toes. What a day! Can you believe it? Jack forced a smile but felt the heaviness in his heart. Yeah, it was something, all right. They started walking toward the exit, weaving through the throngs of people chatting, laughing, and snapping pictures. Jack kept scanning the park for the boy, his heart tightening with each passing moment. Finally, he spotted him again. He was sitting on a bench, laughter still lingering on his face, but he looked a bit lost now, watching everyone around him. Hey, Marissa, Jack said, steering them toward the boy. We should check in on him. As they approached, the boy's expression brightened again. He hopped off the bench, nearly stumbling with excitement. You watched her, didn't you? She was so cool. Marissa knelt in front of him, her smile warm and inviting. She really was. What was your favorite part? The boy's eyes sparkled. When she talked about kindness. I want to be kind. But sometimes, I don't know how. Jack's heart leaped at the boy's words. Something deep inside him shifted. You know, kindness can start with just a smile or sharing your toys. Being there for someone is sometimes all it takes. The boy shifted on his feet, his gaze drifting away. But what if nobody wants me around? The question hit Jack like a punch to the gut. He felt that familiar pang of pain lurking in his chest. Knowing what it felt like to be an outsider, he crouched down beside the boy. It's okay to feel that way sometimes. Even big kids like us have those feelings. But I want you to know, if you keep being brave and kind, you'll find people who want to be around you. Marissa nodded, eager to offer encouragement. You have a lot of bravery already. You came out here today and had fun with all those kids. That's amazing. The boy blushed, a shy smile creeping back as he took a deep breath. You really think so? Jack caught Marissa's eye, and they both listened as the boy continued. The kids at school, they're not nice sometimes. I just want to play. His voice cracked, vulnerability spilling out in the fading light. Jack's heart ached. You know, a lot of times it's about finding the right friends. You'll find them, I promise. It's like that moment back there when you took a step and joined that group. You can keep doing that. At that moment, Jack was reminded of his own struggles. How often had he felt invisible? How many times had he wanted someone to tell him things would be okay? With a sudden spark of inspiration, he suggested, why don't you join our group? We're looking to help kids find their spark, like you. We can all be brave together. The boy's face lit up with hope, but the weight of uncertainty still lingered in his eyes. Really? You'd want me? Absolutely, Marissa chimed in, let us create something amazing. As the sun dipped lower, Jack saw the foundations of their connection solidify. But just as hope flourished, his phone buzzed, an urgent message flashing on the screen, we need to talk. Important. The buzz felt like a storm cloud against the bright horizon of possibility. What's wrong? Marissa asked, noticing his change in demeanor. Jack couldn't shake off the pit in his stomach. I don't know yet, but I have to take this call. As he walked away to answer the message, he wondered if this was the moment that would change everything, a challenge that could either bond them or shatter their newfound ambitions. What awaited him on the other end of that conversation? Would he have the strength to navigate whatever storm was brewing? Jack felt the chill of uncertainty cling to him as he stepped away from Marissa and the boy, their laughter fading into the background. He glanced at his phone, staring at the message like it held the weight of the world. "We need to talk. Important." It felt ominous, a dark cloud hovering over the bright beginnings he had just witnessed. He took a deep breath and answered the call. "Hello? Jack?" "It's Rachel." The voice on the other end was sharp and serious. "I'm afraid I have some bad news." His heart sank. "What happened?" "It's about your father. He's in the hospital." "It doesn't look good." A sharp breath hitched in Jack's throat. Memories flooded back, weeks spent trying to build a bridge that always felt too distant. His father had been a man of few words, often too wrapped up in his own world to connect with his son. Jack hadn't even seen him in months. Now, that choice loomed heavy, like a weight he couldn't shake off. "Is it serious?" Jack managed to choke out, feeling the air thicken inside him. "They're doing everything they can. I suggest you come as soon as possible." "Right away," Jack replied, the finality settling deep within him. He hung up, trying to gather his thoughts. Marissa and the boy were still talking, their voices bubbling with excitement about their plans. He felt a sharp pang of guilt pierce through him at the thought of leaving them. But his family blood was calling. When he turned back, Marissa was looking at him with concern. "You okay? You looked really worried." Jack forced a smile but couldn't mask the emotion brewing beneath. "I have to go. My dad he's in the hospital. Do you want us to come with you?" she asked, her voice warm and earnest. He shook his head. "No. I appreciate it, but I need to handle this alone." The boy's expression dropped, misunderstanding the gravity of the situation. "Will you come back?" Jack knelt down, trying to convey a sense of reassurance he didn't quite feel. "I'll be back. You'll find us, just like you found us today. Remember what we said about being brave?" The boy nodded slowly, his eyes wide with the kind of innocence that tugged at Jack's heart. He wished he could gather him up into a hug, to somehow shield him from similar pain. "Be kind and stay brave," he whispered before standing up, locking eyes with Marissa. "I'll text you when I know more." As he walked through the park towards his car, each step felt heavier. The vibrant colors of the sunset began to dull, fading into the backdrop of his thoughts. He couldn't shake the feeling that this call to his past had implications far beyond the walls of the hospital. What if this was the moment he had to confront his father, to finally say everything he'd wanted to say all those years? Would he have the courage to step into that room, to face the man who shaped him even while he was absent? The hospital loomed in the distance, a stark reminder of his complex ties to family. Suddenly, it felt less like a place of healing and more like a battleground of emotions, where honesty would have to fight through years of silence. As he parked and made his way inside, a sense of finality settled in his gut. What awaited him beyond those doors? Would he be met with forgiveness, anger, or something else entirely? For now, all he knew was that the journey ahead would change everything if he could only find the strength to embrace it. Jack stepped into the sterile hospital hallway, its fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Each step echoed his heartbeat, drumming out anxious thoughts and memories he had buried deep inside. His past sat heavy on his shoulders as he approached the door to his father's room. The silence weighed on him, thick and suffocating. Would he emerge from this encounter with the peace he sought? Would he confront the years of resentment, disappointment, and longing? As he paused outside the door, adrenaline pulsed through him, urging him to retreat. But the fleeting laughter of children and the warmth of community from the fundraiser flickered in his mind, sparking a deep-seated determination. He had come too far to turn back now. Taking a deep breath, he pushed open the door. Inside, the room was dimly lit, hospital machinery beeping softly around the still figure of his father, fragile in the sheets, eyes closed. Jack felt a pang in his chest, a rush of longing mixed with resentment. He grazed his fingers over the stark white walls, fearing what lay beneath the surface of that rigid body. "Dad?" he dared to say, his voice a mix of uncertainty and courage. His father stirred, eyes fluttering open, revealing a deep, weary gaze that still held familiar strength. "Jack?" A question wrapped in surprise and confusion, as if they hadn't seen each other in years. "It's me," Jack replied, stepping further into the room. The scent of antiseptic clawed at his nostrils and memories of childhood drifted in and out, overwhelming him. "How are you feeling?" "Same as always, I suppose." His father's voice was hoarse but steady. "What brings you here?" Jack hesitated. "I heard you were in the hospital. I wanted to see you." Instead of immediately diving into the heart of their issues, he chose a different path, the path of connection that he had learned from his community. "I've been working on something important. A fundraiser for the community center. It's been good for me for the town." His father's eyebrows knitted in interest. "Community center? I didn't know you were involved in that kind of thing." "It's been eye-opening," Jack continued, a smile creeping onto his lips at the memory of the fair. "People are coming together. They're creating connections, trusting each other. I can't help but think maybe we could had something like that." His father's gaze dropped to the sheets, and Jack perceived the flicker of regret. "Son, I never meant to push you away." "Then why did you?" Anger bubbled up, but he tempered it, channeling the strength he had gained. "I want to understand. I've spent so much time wrestling with our past." His father shifted, the earnestness of Jack's question finally piercing the distance that had kept them apart for so long. "You were always the bright one. I didn't know how to reach you. I was scared." Jack clenched his fists. "Scared of what?" "Of being vulnerable, I guess," his father answered, fatigue lacing his voice. "I put my career first, and I thought I was doing it for you. But I see now we could have done this together. I should have been there for you." The truth hung between them, cracked and raw. Jack felt layers slipping off his heart, too. "You were my dad. I needed you to be here, not just provide for me. I felt invisible." A heavy silence fell, filled with unspoken confessions and years of heartache. But in that silence, something new stirred, a flicker of understanding, the first steps toward healing. Jack felt a weight lift as honesty poured into the cracks of their shared history. "I had a chance to build connections today," Jack continued, the warmth of the memories flooding through. "I won't let fear stop me anymore. Can't we build something together now?" His father nodded, the flicker of remorse glistening in his eyes. "If I'm still here when I get out of this bed, I'd be grateful for a second chance." Still, a part of Jack brimmed with concern. "Will you? I don't want this to be just a moment. I want us to commit to this." "I will. I promise," his father replied softly, sincerity flooding his tone. "Starting today." A sense of triumph washed over Jack, not just for reconciling with his father but for confronting the shadows of his own past. They weren't just words, they felt like a starting point. As he stepped back into the hallway, his heart lightened with the hope that they could rebuild their shattered connection. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in years, he felt ready to embrace it. And as he left the hospital, thoughts of the community center flooded back, children laughing, families bonding. Jack knew their small interactions could ripple through the community, expanding far beyond the confines of those walls. There was a world waiting for him, a world calling for connection and honesty. His involvement was just beginning. In the glow of a new dawn, he would work not just to save a center, but to build a legacy of love and resilience, intertwining the threads of family and community in harmony. Now was the time to cultivate those relationships that nurtured the soul. Now more than ever, he saw that the essence of life wasn't in wealth but in the connections shared, and he was determined to honor that truth, starting here, starting now. This was the moment he had waited for, the moment to truly show up not just for his community but for himself and his family. Now, he was ready to leap forward into a world painted with connection, love, and warmth. And you need to subscribe now to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that expand on hope, connection, and transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep this amazing message alive. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about Jack's journey of reconciliation and transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who could use a reminder about the importance of connection and community. Don't wait not even one more second to show your support and be part of something greater.